So, in my previous video, we spoke of the late Tukulu Makesh Chabalala as one of the founding members of the iconic Kwaito group TKZ. But who was Tukulu? Born on the 14th of October 1976 in Orlando East, Tukulu was the son of South African soccer legend Stanley Screamer Chabalala. Having a father who was widely popular through his hard work in the soccer industry, Stanley made sure to put his kids in the best schools. And for the young Tukulu, he chose to enroll him at the prestigious St. Stithians College in Sandton. There, he met two schoolmates who would eventually make a huge impact in not only his future career, but in his life. Tukulu had ambitions to be in the music industry, and after matriculating, he frequented studios, dropping his CDs, hoping to get signed as an artist. One of those drops gave him the chance to meet Kwaito pioneer Mdu Masilela, thanks to his wife Sarah. She heard Tukulu's tape and begged her husband to give Tukulu a listen. In an interview, Mdu talks about this meeting. Eventually, I listened to him for 2 to 3 times, and he even does some auditioning for me. He is shy, but becomes a live wire when he performs, showing energy and talent. So I go back to my wife and I say you're right about him. Mdu proceeds to sign and include him in a group project he was working on named Mashamplani, which consisted of Tukulu, Sbu Maloya Njangase, Pro Ngubani, and Mdu himself. In 1995, Mashamplani released the EP Hey Kop. The title track was a smash hit, where you can not only hear Makesh on the chorus chanting, but his line towards the end of the song. Even though Mashamplani had a successful career, the group disbanded the following year when Tukulu and Sbu left the group, leaving behind Mdu and the dancers who then tried to fill up their spots in the band. Tukulu alleged they were ripped off when it came to performance fees. In that same year, Tukulu reunited with his friends from high school, Zwaibala and Kabelo Mabelani. The trio went on to form the group we now know as TKZ and released their first EP called Take It Easy in 1996. In 1997, the new Mashamplani released Lost and Found, an EP that consisted of diss tracks aimed at Tukulu for leaving the group. The Mashamplani track called Tukulu a Dog with No Teeth. This made Tukulu hot. Tukulu was a wordsmith that grew up in a time where rap beefs were prominent in hip-hop. With this diss from a legend he looked up to and background dancers who were trying to sound like him, Tukulu knew he had to show them he was not to be played with.
Like we in the studio working on Palafala that time. And then I went to Sony to get, because I used to go to Sony to collect my Mashamplani royalties, because remember we're the members of Mashamplani and
you and Tukulu,
yeah. So when then they phoned me to come and collect the royalties. So when I came there, then I went to the guys, like Dineo, Tukulu's sister was working there, to ask for new stuff that they had.
Yeah.
Then I got this new CD, the new Mashamplani, where we're not the members of the Mashamplani. Then I listened to that. Then I heard this song, I said, this guy is dissing Makesh. He's saying Tukulu Njangana. And I came to your studio playing that song. Guys, listen to this song. Then, after listening to that song, we said,
the battle lines were drawn. TKZ had planned to release the EP Palafala around the summertime, as it featured fun and lively tracks for that season. But Tukulu recorded and added the scathing diss track, Masimbela. The song was a bigger diss track than what Mdu tried with Lost and Found. It combined Mdu's name with feces. The Phalafala EP, which also featured Sbu Ntshangase, went on to sell over 100,000 units and became a catalyst in their rise to national prominence in the local music industry, proving that Tokolo and Sbu became a much bigger and better success story than Mashamplani. With the 1998 FIFA World Cup around the corner, there was a euphoria in the air as South Africa's national team Bafana Bafana was qualifying for the very first time. While having drinks with Zwei, Tokolo heard the final countdown by the Swedish rock band Europe and came up with an idea to sample the song for their next single.
Who came up with the idea to sample Final Countdown? 'Cause that was genius,
That's
man.
Tokolo.
For real.
Yeah.
The Shibobo
Both of them
idea.
were sitting in Hard Rock Cafe in Rosebank. I wasn't there. Final Countdown came on the speakers. Tokolo was like, we've got to sample that. That's the song. Because we were kind of workshopping a track for the Bafana Bafana World Cup 98.
The single became their biggest hit to date, proving that Tokolo was more than the lyrical genius in the group. He served as a co-producer in his own right. The trio worked on their own verses and decided to add 20-year-old Benny McCarthy on it in preparation of the World Cup. Benny's verse was written by both Kabelo and Tokolo. Tokolo's infectious voice stood out in the entire song, including a twist in the first line of the national anthem, a line you might have heard before on one of the biggest hip-hop tracks of 2014. Later in 1998, TKZ's debut album Halloween was released. Tokolo was now popularly known as Magesh, the lyricist and rapper who killed his verses on kwaito and house beats. So talented was he that he had his own song on Halloween called Magesh. With a catchy intro, Homonati Si, a line 90s babies constantly enjoyed repeating growing up. TKZ released Gaz 2001, where we saw Tokolo reunite with Sbu Ntshangase and collaborates with longtime friend Gwaiza on the album. Izinja Zam was one of the standout records from the album, with Tokolo arguably having the standout verse on the song as usual for his impeccable wordplay. Tokolo released his first album, Ndabezitha, in 2000 with the single called Indlovu Iyangena. It was his sophomore album, All in One, released 2 years later that constantly had him on radio charts. Number 1 Tsotsi, featuring the late TK and Thuli Thillis, was his biggest solo hit, though a constant reminder of the tragic nature of that era. Thuli Thillis and TK were two artists who met their untimely deaths at their peaks. Following the traction his sophomore album had garnered, Tokolo was featured in various kwaito and hip-hop hits, including Spikiri's Fat and Sick. He went on to release 5 more studio albums, and his most recent effort, Heist, which stood for He Is Tokolo, received critical acclaim as it showed a much more mature version of the kwaito bad boy we grew to love. The first single from the album, Scoop Sam, featuring Zwei, was one of the most played songs in the country at the time, which made Tokolo feel really good in a long time. In 2014, Magesh received his flowers and respect from Motswako icon Khuli Chana, who featured him on Hapele Hape Part 2, reminding us of the cadence that started it all. We need not to forget that what Magesh brought to the forefront of kwaito and rap inspired a whole generation of not only kwaito but hip-hop, including Motswako. I think we all know that Magesh should have had an even more successful career while he was still alive. With that being said, why didn't he? Well, to try and answer that question, we need to rewind. In 2001, TKZ was on a high, experiencing riches and popularity that was unheard of in kwaito at the time. Touring overseas, flying in private jets, everything seemed to be going so well. Sadly, unbeknownst to them, what was to come later on that year would cause a shift in Tokolo's life. Botswana police had accused Tukulu of speeding after they tried to stop him for driving a BMW convertible without number plates in Mogodichane village outside Gaborone in 2001. The BMW belonged to prominent Botswana businessman Parks Haubakwe, and his son Besau was a passenger in the car. Tukulu was in ICU with a clot in his brain from head injuries, which caused him epileptic seizures. Tukulu constantly denied being the driver of the car. Tukulu told Sunday World, "I had a monkey on my back for 7 full years. I could not leave Johannesburg, and having to see cops every 3 days of the week was no joke." Tukulu had been afraid of standing trial in Botswana because the courts there imposed the death sentence. When the South African authorities received assurances that Tshabalala would not be given the death sentence, Tshabalala agreed to return. He was eventually acquitted of all charges in 2009, but this incident remained a turning point moment in his life.
There's the Magesh before the car accident, and the Magesh before the car, after the car accident. And I don't know, we lost something in that car accident.
Shit, man.
I don't want to lie. That, like, outside of the car accident, you don't mess with Magesh on the mic. Like, I always knew my place. You know, I always knew my place, and it was just sitting in the pocket, learn. Like, I learned from the best. I walked with the best to ever do it in this country.
In 2010, Magesh escaped being prosecuted for petrol theft after he allegedly fled from a service station without paying for a full tank of fuel. He went back the following Tuesday to pay back the bill, and the owner then withdrew the charges. In 2014, he was arrested after Zwaibala filed a case against him for allegedly assaulting him, claiming that Tukulu assaulted him with a sharp object after an argument. Tukulu denied beating Zwai up and claimed that Zwai had hit a wall. He was acquitted of the charge and rehashed issues with Zwai. In 2015, Magesh was arrested on charges of theft in Bloemfontein after he refused to pay a 62 rand bill for his drinks. He was freed when he appeared in court as the charges against him were dropped. Out of the trio, Magesh was the one who had not cultivated as strong of a brand as Kabelo and Zwai. His solo music ventures were not much of a commercial success. His relationship with both friends was no longer the same. Even though he was acquitted of the charges from the accident, he could never shake it off. He never received the full scope of plaudits his talent warranted, whether solo or within a group. In 2022, Tukulu's seizures occurred more often months leading to his death, and on the 15th of August 2022, he succumbed to an epileptic seizure in his home. Tukulu's burial was held on the 19th of August with attendance from family, friends, and industry peers. He was remembered as a laid-back, hilarious man, passionate about his raps, and welcoming to any and everyone.
He's like, eksephala dobetsa kuyafana. Ungakhohlwa nyama sonke siyaphanda. Siyabezwa bathi thina siyadelela, siyabezwa bathi thina siyophela, samadela kufa sonke organja. You know, so that was absolutely amazing because he said so much in such a small space, and he spoke to a spirit of resilience.
Magesh doesn't get enough of his flowers, man.
What does he?
For real.
What would he do? Like, does he write on the spot? Does he freestyle?
Everything.
Sure.
Everything. Now, Magesh is the business, man.
Magesh changed the entire genre of Kwaito and made it a standard for Kwaito artists to take lyricism seriously and not just sing hooks on catchy beats. The same can be said about Mzansi hip-hop. He and Kabelo opened that door for our favorite Kasi hip-hop stars who came out swinging with vernacular lyrics. I'm talking about Pro Kid, Kuli Chana, and even Casper Nyovest. Listen to the flows, the cadence, listen to the play on words. It would be a crime to say he has not inspired a generation. He may have had a troubled life after that accident, but he had long made his mark in our minds and hearts. His accident did not define him. Tukulu will always be Magesh to us. Rest in heavenly peace, Magesh. Hey guys, thanks for watching. If you'd like to hear me cover more content, whether it be an artist, a TV show, let me know in the comment section below. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And with that, I'll see you next time. Bye.